I got a chance to listen to it early, guys. It's awesome. I really liked it. As soon as I finished listening to it, the person I had a contact with, I'm like, can I interview these guys? Because this would be really cool to kind of ask a couple of questions.
That's nice to hear. We've kind of been stretching out about it because we've been working for it like for a year or something, and it's just nobody has heard it.
Yeah,
No, but
indeed.
well, if you don't mind, guys, I'll do a small introduction, maybe for some listeners who might not know you or soon will find out about you. Is you guys are, if I pronounce it correctly, Kouta?
Kouta.
Kouta. Kouta
Yes,
is,
that's
which is
perfect.
a Finnish black metal band with some like folk elements in that, at least the way that kind of I saw it. And you guys are going to be releasing your first EP on March 11th. And first of all, as I just want to congratulate you guys, it's a big milestone, right? It's the first thing that people are going to hear from you. I wanted to first ask, I will give my opinions 100%. I gave you a little impression what I thought, but I first want to ask you guys, how do you feel? The EP is coming out. You have any fears, concerns, excitement?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely waiting to get to play some gigs after the release. That's the best thing about it, but definitely hyped.
Yeah, really hyped because we've been working for like almost 2 years to make this band happen and been sitting on the songs for a year. So it's like my second coming in black metal. So it's
Yeah.
like really exciting.
That's actually a question I was going to ask. I wanted to look up if you guys were in former bands, if you had any other projects. Well, first of all, I think it would also help with for the listeners if you guys can kind of small introduction. If you did have other bands and maybe your experience with music, or kind of you name it, I think it would really help out as well.
I'll start first. My list is shorter. I'm Arttu Pentikäinen, and I play the bass in Kouta and sing some clean vocals. This is when it comes to metal, this is my first band,
Okay.
and I played I play in a country pop band as well, and but metal has always been where my heart is at. So I'm super excited and simultaneously nervous because of it, as you said before,
Of
first
course.
coming out with it. But Antti was actually the one who gave me a call 2 years back and said that shall we make it happen? What shall we make happen? Let's make a great band.
That's the beginning of every good story, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm Antti Mäki, the singer of Kouta, and I have like a couple bands before this,
Hmm.
most notably Meat Grinder and Leskentuska, which Meat Grinder is crossover trash and like Leskentuska is black and roll. And we actually met when he was featured in our like couple of live gigs,
Hmm.
and yeah,
Yeah,
that
I sang the backing vocals on a couple of gigs, so that's how I met Antti originally.
yeah.
Make sure I ask you at the end about it too. I'm a big thrash fan, so when you said thrash and then black and roll, I want to check out those bands as well. If you don't mind, I'll ask you maybe at the end of the interview
Definitely.
as well. And you know what it is? My opinion of the EP was what, 3 songs. Right away, I was like, oh shit, okay. I was like, what is this? Right away connected with it. I really like the folk elements that you guys introduced. The kind of side by side this extreme black metal with something that's, I would say, very beautiful. Like I'm assuming it's Finnish folklore. So it's these two kind of coming together. I think you guys have a really nice blend of the two. So that there's a nice of heavy and soft in the music. The vocals were great. The production was great. I really had like zero, like I'm a nitpicky person. I'm very critical and I didn't have like one bad thing to say.
That's great to hear.
I think your fears will be completely unfounded. I 100% sure when it comes out, I think people are going to really love. And what I was going to mention from you guys, you're Finnish, and of course I want to point out a couple of things. Is Finnish is a home to so many good bands. And what do you think is going to separate you guys from maybe some of the bands that we all come to love? And what do you think the fans should prepare for since it's going to be their first outing of Kauta?
Well, nobody has heard black metal with a banjo before.
Yeah. On this album, as we speak, we're recording the banjo tracks, so
Awesome.
that's definitely something. But I guess, as you said, combination of various different elements. On this first one, on Arni, we wanted to create the groundwork, as to say. So basically, start with black as it is, modern-ish black, but then we have great plans to take this to various directions.
Take it a step further. Yeah.
Yeah.
I interviewed have you guys ever heard of Infected Rain?
Yeah, I've heard about.
It's like it's a Moldovan band, and they do like also a mixture of different things. She says something very interesting. She's like, "There's no more pure death metal or pure black metal. I think the modern age of musicians, we like to pull from every direction that inspires us." And I actually want to ask you, what kind of inspiration? I mean, obviously, maybe some metal bands that you were inspired by, and perhaps just things outside of metal, whether it be music outside of metal, art, folklore, like the things that you really pulled from.
Well, with me, I started my musical journey as a kid early on from folk metal here in Finland, Ensiferum, Patofit Turisas, then also Emperor and the more classical black metal stuff. Today, Behemoth, I have to say, of course,
Oh
a
my
lot
God.
of influence from Behemoth. Who wouldn't take, influence from Behemoth? But also thematically, me and Antti, when we started sort of brainstorming with Kouta and the thematics and the name,
Mhm.
this Nordic forest as a myth, but as just a whole holistic aesthetic is something that at least inspires me a lot. And perhaps music wise, we both make songs for Kouta, so
Mhm.
perhaps you can say something about music as well.
Yeah, like, well, my my influences don't really come out as like in the music as much, but a lot of hardcore punk. Like I fucking love Finnish hardcore punk and been in a scene for like 12 years.
Yeah.
So from a child, and like the whole aesthetic of extremely in punk is like the things that drive me to do my vocal like sounds and stuff,
Mhm.
because I've noticed that it's a bit different than the normal black metal stuff.
I would agree with you on that 100%. You notice it. It just sounds a little bit, you can't, I couldn't point my finger to it until you said it, but it sounded different. And especially like when you guys said like the folk elements, everything that you're kind of pulling in here, you can't pinpoint it automatically, but you can feel that something does feel different. It is black metal and folk metal, but it's not. And when you said Ensiferum, man, I was on board. I love Ensiferum as well.
No, absolutely,
It's a great band.
absolutely.
And listening to bands like Wolfheart, Dawn of Solace, all of these bands I've actually discovered this year: Insomnium, Amorphis, Winter Sun. Why do you think there's such a strong lyrical thematic in your band and in those bands about nature and folklore? I've seen it to be just a very big element in the music and the lyrics everywhere.
Well, I think it's mostly with our case because most of us are from Lapland originally, and me and Arttu are from originally from Rovaniemi, which
Mhm.
is the home of Santa Claus and home of like everything cold and dark because there's Gamos and like I myself have been in touch with Sami culture from like all the stories and everything around it made me think the forest is something to be frightful, and I think that's like the most, well, I can't like pinpoint it, like it's been long days, so I can't really make a great answer now, but like the forest and nature is like
There's definitely a strong emphasis in Finnish culture on nature and this sort of mystical forest mythology, because although we are neighbors with Scandinavian countries such as Sweden and Norway and Denmark, and they have their Vikings,
Yeah.
but well, we don't. We don't have the Vikings, but we have the Laplandish mythology, and then also Kalevala, Karelian mythology, and there is definitely a strong emphasis on this dark forestry culture here in Finland. And as Antti said, we're from Lapland, but also from rather small places. We're right now in Posio, which is a village of 3,000 people here in Lapland. And we're here recording the album, and I grew up here. So what do you do here when there's nothing else than to go and roam in the dark woods?
And you know why I particularly brought that point up? I myself, I live in New York City now, but I was born in Russia. And Russia is heavily influenced by a lot of Scandinavian countries and Nordic countries, mainly because they've helped build Russia to what it was. But we don't have that thematic in music. It's actually the opposite. It's very kind of a lot more lighthearted, despite having the same frigid winters, mountainous areas and everything like that. So it's always interesting to see how your geography sometimes does define your music.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I was going to ask you also, guys, is kind of it's a similar question to what I was asking, but there's also a lot of kind of melancholy and dark atmosphere in your music. Why do you think it plays such an important role in your band and again in Finnish bands? Sorry if there's like a little crossover in terms of the.
No, it's a good question. I guess thematically, I don't want to label us as any kind of a band thematically, ecological or otherwise. But
Yeah,
when me and Antti, when we discuss themes for songs and albums, there is this certain hatred towards mankind for what we've done to, well, simply put, what we've done to the Mother Earth, and then
yeah.
other human beings, and then when we found this mythological being Kouta, sort of like a demigod, and there was a lot of darkness and the similar hatred in him, so something clicked.
There's something interesting that you said was, it was like, oh my God, I just had the thought. Oh my God, it escaped me. If I remember it, I'm gonna come back to it. But
Please
every musician I talk to has like this fire underneath him to make music, right? Everybody kind of gave me. I talked to Tomas from Dawn of Solace, and this guy is just a monster. He just like as soon as he finishes a record, he wants to write a new one, and to him, it's rest. That's how he rests. So it's like everybody finds their own fire for music, and whether it's be driven by politics or bettering the world, shock value. And I guess what was the fire underneath your feet that you felt like I need to release this music to the world?
Good question, a hard one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to put it simply, if I could, and hopefully one day after the EP and the album, one day I can, I would love to write music 12 hours a day. Yeah, that's just it. I don't talk about a creative force or something, but it's just it's a natural flow. Sit, at your digital audio workstation, take the guitar to your hand and make things happen. And then when I send it to the guys and they say that it sounds great, it's somehow a feeling of fulfillment, to me at least.
Yeah. Well,
But I think you're more of a, I mean, artistically as well as aesthetically, you're a performer, definitely. Because when we played in Leskentuska, I want to brag about our singer. It's a different mode. I think Antti enters, and it's really dominating and impressive that I think there's a fire there for you at least.
Yeah, I'm more of every song I write and every lyric I write, I do it from the of how it will, and that's like one of the best feelings ever.
Yeah.
I love and like would do it like every weekend if other people would.
So
would want to.
I'd be sitting on the computer every day, but you'd be on the stage every
Yeah.
day.
And you know, when you said you don't want to be labeled, that's what I remembered. I remember what I wanted to say is the thing you said, that you don't want to be labeled as one thing. It almost sounds like, and you kind of hinted to it and alluded to it, is this idea that you don't want to be held to this idea of just playing black metal, just playing death metal, is whatever's going to come natural. I'm guessing, like I'm assuming here, whatever's going to come natural for this band in terms of their music progression, almost like Amorphous, right? They started in this hard death metal and just progressed to something very different that's still very much Amorphous. Is it something along the lines, at least in your heads right now?
Well, definitely. And then I think both of us are a bit all over the place type of guys. So I think finding the mythological being Kouta to be sort of the backbone,
Mm-hmm.
not caging as such, but sort of like guidelines. I think it helped me a lot to somehow keep focus both musically and thematically.
Yeah.
But definitely we want to be open to different things. And as you mentioned before, modern music, modern metal, and especially modern black metal, they are taking directions where you don't have to wear corpse paint anymore. You
Yeah.
can. Yeah, there's so many different ways you can take, and now on the EP, lots of new stuff coming on the second EP. I mean, and then the album, whole different direction, acoustic songs, as we said, a banjo playing. And
Can I ask you, what was the idea? I mean, banjo is, from what I know, my history is a American folklore. It's an American instrument. What made you interested to pull in a banjo into a black metal, Finnish folk metal band, or?
I can answer this shortly. It's because we found our guitar player because our old one left us,
Mhm.
and he just told us that he plays the banjo, and we were like, "What the fuck? Let's play banjo." And it's just
yeah,
well,
it had to be one WhatsApp discussion where he said, "Yeah, I play the banjo." But, oh, okay, that would be interesting. And then he sends a recording. Well, this is what I did to one of your songs. Do you like it? And we were sold.
yeah,
It's gonna be on the album, and here we are.
It's beautiful how you have these happy accidents sometimes just out of nowhere. It's like nothing, something you expected. For some reason, we as fans, and I can speak to a lot of myself and my brother who introduced me to metal, is we think we really dive into whatever you produce, like, oh, he must have done it for this reason. Oh, they must have, like, there's some really deeper meaning. And sometimes it's so kind of relaxing to hear from some of you guys, like, this is like, no, it was just an accident. Well, I've had people tell me, I just like the name of the Dagobah, and that's kind of why I named the band. That was the name,
Yeah.
and that's where it ends. And there's a beauty in it because it makes you guys a lot more relatable to us. And we don't see you as this unreachable figure that we could never get to.
And definitely, and then in the process, the first kick might be an accident, but then when it starts developing,
Yeah.
becomes a reason in itself, and it's great just to look at it from a distance.
Well, I think it
How
was
things
it was
happen.
Beatles, right? They by mistake created the distorted sound with the guitars because their amp was messed up.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then you go, distortion was created, and that's how, would metal music be even there without distortion? Uh,
indeed.
you guys also mentioned new music. I have a relative idea of what's going on because I got like a small press release, but I'd much rather you tell fans about the new music besides this EP that you'll have coming out in the coming year and years.
Well, so as we mentioned, we're now in the studio,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have two EPs and an album out. completely if we work hard. But so far things are looking good here. And well, thematically, where are we moving? I mean, I think you write more lyrics than me now.
Yeah, well, I think like the thematic, like we're going to like long epic songs, like combined to like 3 parts and stuff,
Yeah.
and telling big stories and going like storytelling wise, almost cinematic and like have different parts than the EP, like
Mhm.
a lot of clean singing and stuff.
Yeah. The EP, the first EP, will be about the rise of the rebirth of Kouta, this being, because the band name is that we wanted to start somewhere. But then on the album there will be a triptych of sorts about stories from northern mythology other than Kouta as well, and we want to keep to the north, but otherwise it's, I don't know, a bit all over the place perhaps. I think the driving force is Kouta, and then hatred towards towards mankind, to put it mildly. Not
Well,
only hatred.
I like I said, I'm being honest about how I felt about your music, which I will be doing a review for the EP. And I think it'll just be a matter of people getting their hands on the music and checking you guys out, because I feel like social media has become such a driving force, especially with people either reacting to it, reviewing it, or just fans really spreading the message. I've only recently started doing this kind of YouTube channel where I do like reviews, interviews, and stuff like that, reactions. And it's crazy how passionate fans are and how much they will promote you guys. It's the new word of mouth. If back in the day Sepultura and Creator had to exchange cassette tapes, now you have such a better force, an army almost, that will do it for you as long as like you're present there as well. So I have a good feeling that this busy year will really be fruitful for you guys.
Hopefully so.
Yeah.
There will be. We have, how many gigs do we have already
Well,
this year settled? There's one one next month, and then in April there's a couple, and then end of the summer. But hopefully now that things are opening again, we will find more. And because as it is, live music, gigs, talking with people is still the way to go in a way. But also promotionally wise, we also made a promotion beer of sorts. Traditional Finnish brew. It's a bit different than beer, and then we wanted to share it with people. Give a cassette and a bottle of homemade beer. And these funny things. We're a type of group that when we get an idea, we usually just take it and push it through immediately, and then it either works or doesn't.
Well, you know what? I think. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Coming to the gigs, we have 6 that have been released, and we're going to play with Havokruunu and Black Crucifixion. Like, was it when was it?
End of August.
Yeah, end of August, and then a festival gig as well. But like, that's gonna be huge because Havokruunu and Black Crucifixion are great bands, and it's their 30-year anniversary of the first album of Black Crucifixion, which is the first black metal band in like Finland
and also from Rovaniemi.
Yeah,
originally. And then I don't know if you've listened to Havokruunu, but really I have to say an inspiration for me music-wise. They did something to black metal combined to folk. At least on their new album, that I was blown away.
I'm gonna have to get all those names from you guys, just so you know.
Yeah. Also, just an inspiration to be able to play with these bands who are big in the scene.
You know, I think
It's
the
just
only
starting.
hard part, I think, well, not the only hard part, but I think the hardest and scariest part, I would think, is the internet provided so much more exposure for you guys as musicians to be found. But also, there's, as a fan, there's just so much music, and it's good. It's not like in the 80s, I can pick out a lot of honesty. I can pick out a lot of garbage. It was just like, it's not going to stand the test of time. Now there's so much good music because a lot of you guys have been inspired by legends and grown up with this music. Your technical level is better than a lot of these bands. So it's like, how do you, as a fan, keep up with all this? And for me, it's a good problem to have because I just get more and more and more, and I'm happy to kind of consume all of it.
Well, I guess for me, I don't I don't think about success, or I don't really even dream about where I want to be as a musician, or where I want to see the band. But for me, you know, when you write a song and when you record it and when you hear and you're happy with it and it sounds good, that's
Yeah.
the prize for me. And if one person says that, man, this fucking rocks, then I'm that's enough. So there, you know, because then you don't have to compete. You can as well. I mean, we listen to a lot of music as well, so it's just, you know, isn't it great that there's so much good music out
Yeah, yeah. And oh, if we say, you said you don't think about success, but I will ask you to dream a little bit. What would be one bucket listing for you guys?
Wacken.
Vakken?
Wacken.
You know, I one day have to make the pilgrimage out to Germany to Wacken and check it out, because some of the bands in New York, especially, we don't have festivals. A lot of bands, especially European bands, they just don't come out here. Especially I saw a lot of Finnish bands like Mokoma and all these kinds of. They don't travel out much outside of Europe, I think, right? We miss out on a lot of really good live shows here in New York. So perhaps maybe one day you guys will be in New York and I'll be amongst the crowd checking you out.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully soon.
Then you'll have a shirt, a Kouta shirt waiting for you as well.
I actually like the design too. It's really nice. I like that it's not like, you know, like the death metal vocal, the band logo is like, what the fuck am I looking at? You can't, it just became like a thing. It's like, how ridiculous can you make it? And what's your non-metal music to go to?
Well,
I think both of us listen to a lot of Finnish rap music.
you know, that's true. And like,
Surprising for metalheads, but
I wouldn't say that. I would say my second one is rap as well. I think they're
yeah,
very transferable. No, don't you think like rap music, essentially the beginnings of rap music and beginnings of heavy metal music is both rebellious music. So they have a lot of this, also this aggression. There's also this very forward ideas and lyrics. I think there's a lot of similarities there than there is with pop, electro, or anything else out there.
yeah, absolutely. And another similarity is that they're both transforming and like finding themselves again constantly, when that's where you compare to country music or
Mm-hmm.
classical, but also what techno does as well. But pop music, not so much. But rap just keeps pushing on and finding itself again, and then metal as well, I think.
And I'm going to ask you guys just one more question. It's kind of a two-part question. The first, you guys mentioned tours. If you could kind of give again a little overview for those fans. I know there's a lot of Finnish bands, Finnish fans on this channel. I know it. So they might be very excited to hear that they might be locally to check you out. So maybe if you can name a couple of those shows, or at the very least, if you could provide me a link, I'll make sure I put it in the description so guys can check it out. And the other one is the last word that you guys would like to have. I want to leave it to you. Something you want to tell for the upcoming fans, which I'm sure you guys are going to have a bunch of. What to expect, what you would like to tell them. I'll leave it up to you guys. I'll leave the floor.
I'll take the first one. Like, we're playing in Sykäräinen, which is a private festival in 26th of next month. And then the week after that, we're going to be in Tampere in 9th of, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tampere.
Yeah.
Then 2 weeks from that,
No. Before that, we're in the Jyväskylä.
Jyväskylä.
Yeah.
So basically, in upcoming months, from here to August, let's say, you can see us in Sykäräinen, Tampere, Jyväskylä, Helsinki, Kotka, and then up north in Kittilä in a festival. So just they'll be found. I think today bands only have Instagram accounts, anyways. No more home pages.
Yeah.
The second question, I think I wish that people will give a listen to our upcoming EP, and then hopefully also tell us what they like about it. And I just hope to see people on gigs and come and say hi.
Awesome, guys. And me being Russian, I have to finish with a toast. We like vodka, we like toasting, we like fighting, and then making up. So I'll do the first two. I will definitely toast you guys. Is that I wish you guys success. I wish you guys to grow. I can say safely I'm going to be there to check out the 2 EPs and the album, because I think there's something special there that people need to hear. And if I can at the very least spread it to 5 people that are then going to create this web for you guys, I think totally people should have eyes on you. There's bands out there, and I'm going to say it, I'm not going to name bands, but there's bands out there being pushed by labels that I think don't deserve that level of fame that they sometimes get. I'm happy for them, but I don't think they do. I think you guys will deserve all of it. So many, many blessings to you guys.
I take my hat off for you. These kind words.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks a lot, guys. And make sure you take care of yourselves as well, okay?
Will do.
Will do.
Take care.